Hello, everybody, and welcome to the premiere, the first ever, the pilot episode of the podcast I lovingly call the Woodruff Report. The man with the melodious and interesting voice you hear on the speaker is me, David Woodruff, your host, and today I'm coming at you with a great deal of interesting content from the whole wide world of sports. I'm going to recap all the interesting happenings that happened last week in sports, and I'm going to present a revolutionary idea that I think can bring popularity back to the struggling sport of Major League Baseball. Let's get going. I'm coming right at you. I'm excited. You should be too. This is the first ever episode of Woodruff Report. I'm your host, David Woodruff. Let's get right into it, starting now. So I saw a few days ago that Rex Ryan, the coach of the Buffalo Bills, had been fired. And in my head, this was the bat signal that showed me that the whole coaching craziness carousel is going to begin. Coaches are going to be fired and hired, and it's going to get insane in both the NFL and in college football. And this actually made me really sad that Rex Ryan got fired because it proved to me that coaches don't get enough time in any sport, really. Coaches need time to build programs or teams. And right now, I see management that's under too much of a win now kind of perspective. Rex Ryan is a bit of a special case just because of his big talk and his inability to deliver on his promises like Super Bowl and playoff appearances. But in Buffalo, I think that maybe the expectations were a tad too high for this man. First of all, they're in the same division as the New England Patriots led by Tom Brady. And their team was okay, but you're not going to challenge the Patriots for that division. So right now you're hoping on maybe a wild card berth to get to the playoffs, and I think that it's unrealistic to expect a wild card berth. I mean, yeah. So about coaches in general, they really don't get enough time. If you look at the best teams throughout all of professional sports or collegiate sports, you see a striking similarity. They have a long-tenured coach at the helm who has led them and established an identity, a program that he can recruit and base everything that he does on. Teams like the Spurs or the New England Patriots or Alabama all have these programs led by a long-tenured coach who's been able to establish something. You see this in college basketball too, the Dukes of the world, the Michigan States of the world. What's the similarity? They have a coach who's been there a long time and they've established an identity. So let's look at the first year of some of these coaches that I've just mentioned for being successful. Greg Popovich, the longtime coach of the Spurs, in his first season he went 17-47, 30 games under 500. Imagine what would have happened to the space-time continuum had the Spurs fired him on the spot after a horrible 30 games under 500. That's insane. That's terrible. Imagine if they'd fired him. Would there be championships on championships on championships in San Antonio? Would the big three, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker, ever have existed? Just food for thought. Belichick started his coaching career with the dumpster fire that is the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, no one was going to succeed with what they had, and he again stumbled coming out of the coaching gate. Nick Saban, the god of college football, went 7-6 in his first year at Alabama. This might be good for some teams, but for the Tide, the Crimson Tide of Alabama, this would be an absolutely failed season when looking at it right now. But what did these programs, collegiate and professional, do? They stuck with their man at the helm, and they've gotten major results because of it. Again, Rex Ryan is different, but coaches in general need more time. And I think the win now approach that management takes to sports right now is irresponsible, and it's not going to yield the best results in general. If you look at the really bad franchises, you'll notice a similarity. The coaches come and go at an extremely fast rate. So, do these teams only hire bad coaches? I think not. I think that they're just not giving them enough time. Moving on to the college football playoff. I'm excited. Alabama plays Washington, and Ohio State plays Clemson in the Chick-fil-A and the Fiesta Bowls, respectively. And the college football playoff has really allowed me to reflect on bowl games in general. And it's a commonly asked question, are there too many bowl games? To which I say no. There are never too many bowl games. Giving seniors one last game in an exotic place like the Bahamas or Hawaii is never a bad idea, especially if these players are given a little bit of money for their from the sponsorships of the bowls or gift cards. They're given a little bit of cash, and it's what they deserve as collegiate athletes for all the work that they do for their programs. But a little case study. So I was watching the Hawai'i Bowl the other day between Hawaii and Middle Tennessee, and it really struck me as a very weird game on a lot of different levels. First of all, Hawaii didn't even have a winning record. They were 6-7. That's kind of ridiculous that a team without a winning record can make a bowl game. Again, bowl games are good, but still, that seems like you're rewarding mediocrity to some level. Second of all, why was Hawaii playing in the Hawai'i Bowl? I think the scheduling of that bowl is completely messed up. Imagine all the teams that would have loved to play in Hawaii, all the mediocre teams. Instead, you put Hawaii at the field that they've been playing at all year when you could fly them out to a different place. I think that I'm a high school athlete, and I think that collegiate athletes and professional athletes would really like to go to a separate place instead of playing like a bowl game at a place that they've been playing all season. So yes, bowl games are good, but shame on you, Hawai'i Bowl. You did a really bad job. Finally, I just need to talk about this for a second. The 49ers played the Rams in probably the most boring game of the year, but it actually turned out to be very interesting on a lot of levels. So the Cleveland Browns beat the Chargers on a missed field goal at the buzzer by the Chargers kicker, and Cleveland got their first win. This put the San Francisco 49ers in a position that had they lost, they would have been in position to win the first pick. So the 49ers have a roster bereft of talent, and really the first pick would be a great thing for this franchise. But what happened was the 49ers won their game against the Rams, thus putting Cleveland in a position to get another number one pick. Besides the fact that Cleveland should never get number one overall picks just because they waste them year in and year out, it brings up the question, should the 49ers have intentionally lost the game? To which I say no. However good intention the loss may be, it's a real letdown to both the sport of football and fandom to intentionally lose a game for any reason. Unfair to the fans, even if some of the fans probably did want the 49ers to lose just to put them in position to get the number one overall pick. So that's my recap of the week in sports. And now I'm going to bring you an idea that I've had for a while now, a way to revolutionize and bring popularity back to the struggling sport that is Major League Baseball. Bear with me here. The MLB should remove one player from the field to increase popularity. I'll let that sink in for a little while. But I'd like to start by saying that baseball isn't in as bad shape as many media members put it out to be. Although TV ratings may be down, baseball is just being taken in different ways. MLB at bat, radio, etc., etc. So baseball isn't dying. That's extreme. But then again, baseball is obviously in a flux. It's not the most popular sport, however America's pastime that slogan may sound. So Boston, the Red Sox, led the league last year with 5.3 runs per game. Now, a common baseball game takes 3.5 hours. So if I'm sitting there watching 3.5 hours of content just to get maybe 5.3 runs per game, I think that that's a little dull for fans. So, thus, my idea, the MLB should remove one player from the field. This would clearly increase runs, as the defense would be at a serious disadvantage. They would have more field to cover with less members of the team. Here are the reasons why this could work. There are obviously a bunch of reasons why it wouldn't. You'd have to fire one whole guy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that this would really play into making baseball more interesting in general. The strategy aspect of the game would increase because you really have to strategize and figure out where you're going to place your players, because if you place them in the wrong situation, you're asking for a lot of trouble. Second of all, I think it would make baseball more athletic in general. It would eliminate the stereotype of the fat designated hitter chewing seeds as an athlete, and it would increase athleticism all over the game. Of course, the DH would probably still exist, so that stereotype would still go away, but I think baseball would become more athletic under this model because you just wouldn't be able to field that big old first baseman who's not very good defensively but can hit the cover off the ball. It would play more towards contact, putting the ball in play more, because you have a greater chance of getting hits. And I think more hits equals more runs, which equals more entertainment to the fans. Now, don't get me wrong, I still do love a nice 1-0 pitching duel, but I think that in general more fans would love an 11-10 game than a 1-0 game with 3 hits in total. I think that this would also eliminate some of the major glaring problems in baseball right now, which is the strikeout problem. Strikeouts are occurring at the highest rate in history, and I think removing one player would increase the need to make contact, and I think strikeouts would decrease significantly. Why this wouldn't work? And let's be honest, this is never actually going to happen. This is just kind of an idea that I've had. So this would not work on a lot of levels. First of all, how would all the records work? Baseball would be a completely different sport. Ooh, that's kind of a good idea. What if we just made this a whole nother sport? It'd be called like 8-man baseball, where you only have 8 men in the field or something. But the rules would have to be tinkered with, and everything would change. But anyway, that's the revolutionary idea I had about Major League Baseball. I think that under this model, the game would become more athletic, strikeouts would decrease, runs would increase, and hitting and offense in general, which would increase, which I think would increase popularity. So there's the Woodruff Report. That's my first ever podcast. I hope you liked it as much as I enjoyed giving it to you. So I'll try to do this weekly, and I'll continue to give you weekly recap and a big idea that I think would help revolutionize sports. Again, the melodious voice through the mic, that's me, David Woodruff. This was the Woodruff Report. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.